Phil, we should have had some more romantic music coming on, like the theme from Love Story.
I broke this already. I'm so
You've
sorry.
Lucy's broken the equipment. Okay. Right. Should we get started?
Yes.
So, I want to talk a little bit about backstories, but not too much because I know people can Wikipedia, both of you, and find a little bit about where you came from. But I'd like to know what things looked like before you had your sort of big breakout success or before you became writers. So let's start with you, Erica. What were you doing at the time when you started doing your fan fiction?
I was working for a bunch of comedians, literally, because I worked with Bob Mortimer and Vic Reeves for a small independent television production company. I have worked in television all my grown years, as it were. So yeah, I was doing that.
That sounds like a brilliant job, by the way.
It was fantastic.
Yeah,
Yes.
I love Vic and Bob.
It was really good.
And Lucy, I think you were working as a journalist, but you started writing, like I guess a lot of us, because you were a passionate reader?
I was escaping real life because right before I became a journalist and everything, I got divorced, I lost my job, I didn't have a house. I was sleeping on my friend's parents' couch for a few weeks, and I was like almost 30. I was like, okay, I think I'm doing something wrong. So yeah, then I did finally land a job in some health insurance and got off the couch and started dabbling with writing romance, especially after I read 50 Shades of Grey.
And you had a big hit with your second book, Tim reminded me, not your first one, and it literally went to #1 in the Amazon store. So you then start thinking, well, you lost your job because they fired you. We had this from you, this story. People watched the session from a couple of years ago.
I get fired a lot.
Yeah. So then you started building, I guess, a platform. I'm interested because I think you've had different journeys to the point where you had your sort of big breakout. So you focused, I think, really on fans. You focused on building fans for your books, and Erica sort of was a fan and with fans writing and stuff, so slightly different. So you perhaps talk about how you did that and what your fans always were, your readers were always central to your marketing effort.
Well, I learned it very early on because my second book did really well, and I was so new. I didn't know any other authors at all at the time, so I didn't know what else I was supposed to be doing. No website, no social media, no newsletter. So that book came out, did really well, and then my next book did a little less well and a little less well, and finally I was basically starting from scratch, and that's when I realized I think I need to make some changes. So that's when I got really interested in social media and a newsletter and having a presence so I could be sticky. I could capture these readers and keep them. So that's really when I started to kind of find my place and my relationship with readers. It took a while.
And you have your own community, your Binge Readers Anonymous, of which I am a member.
I do.
Erica, you obviously, you had a bit of a writing bug. Did that come from somewhere? Because your fan fiction's normally somebody who's wants to be a writer.
Yeah, I've always wanted to write, and I had written, but it never went anywhere, and I was too busy, bringing up kids and working and all of that sort of stuff. And then I went and saw Twilight the movie, which I saw 10 times at the cinema. This is like a confessional. And my husband bought me the books over Christmas, and I just fell into them, and I read them in 5 days, all of them, and I just loved it so much. And I started writing after that. And I wrote 3 books, essentially, and then discovered Twilight fan fiction. I thought, I could have a go at this, and I did. And that was the most fun I've ever had. And, just writing a chapter every 2, I wrote sort of every 4 or 5 days. I'd publish a chapter, and it just grew and grew and grew and grew.
On what platform were you publishing those?
On fanfiction.net and another place called Twilighted. So.
Okay. So you'd written 3 novels just for yourself and not published them at that
Yes.
stage? Okay. And the fan fiction, we should say from a copyright point of view, is not a commercial enterprise.
No.
It's a fun enterprise, but you can't obviously sell because it's somebody else's ideas. And at some point, you then, was it one of those, was 50 Shades one of those 3 that you'd written?
No, 50 Shades was Twilight fan fiction, and it became so obscenely popular that I thought someone's going to steal all these ideas. So I decided to pull it and just publish it. As someone wrote somewhere, file the sites off it. and publish it. And I expected, my goal was to sell 5,000 copies and to maybe one day see it in a bookstore, and that was all my ambition. That was it. And yeah, I now own 3 houses. So.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, you go ahead.
If you, fan fiction, what would you write now?
Fan fiction now.
Is there a story out that you would fix?
I would
what would
actually
you
probably write the stories that I have written as 50 Shades fan fiction. People send me their stuff. In fact, I met a woman recently, a book bonanza, and she's in the 50 Shades fan fiction world, and she just has a ball, and it's great. It's one way that brings mainly women together in these things, and the people that I knew in this world are now published authors, or they're agents, or they're book cover designers. They've actually moved into the mainstream, and it was just such a fabulous place to learn how to deal with audiences and all of that sort of thing. And it was just great fun. And yeah, I would write my own fan fiction. I'd fanfic my fanfic.
You should come up with a pen name. And,
well, I did. Yeah. And sadly, when you get a reporter on your doorstep out of the blue, who looked like he was aged 12, and he came, and I opened the door, and he said, "Are you E.L. James?" And I was so shocked. I wanted to say, "Does your mother know your house?"
That's what we say to policemen now.
But I shut the door on him, and I thought, "Oh shit, what the fuck is going on?" So there we go.
Twilight is fantastical element, obviously vampires, but 50 Shades is real world, billionaire. I mean, I didn't notice if he lived forever, but
well, I think it is partly, wholly fantasy.
Yeah, I mean, it's fantasy.
Get a man to change.
But you know what
that's
I mean.
A fantasy in itself.
It's fantastic, and it's fantasy. But you know what I mean? Did you make a conscious effort to not have a supernatural element in it, or was that because you wanted to differentiate it from Twilight?
That wasn't the story I wanted to tell. I do have a supernatural story, and that's one of the things that I wrote a long time ago. And maybe I'll publish that one day. I don't know. Yeah. But it's YA, and yeah.
So let's talk about. So 50 Shades is published. And a few years later, you published Twingo, and both of these become above anything you've had at this stage. And from 50 Shades is a household name now.
I know.
And you're a household name.
Not
so
really.
I'm interested in knowing where you are, what that felt like when it happened. And in particular, did you panic that you weren't capable of taking advantage of the opportunities? Did you have or did you think, why is it happening? So I don't know who to start with. Let's start with, you just answered Erica, so let's start with Lucy. And I remember it suddenly taking off. What was it like to have that huge hit?
Well, first, it was really exciting. I mean, I loved the book so much, and to have readers react to it in the same way was really, really gratifying. And then for it to go viral on TikTok through no attempts of my own was very exciting. And then I started worrying because I think everybody loves to build a creator up. We all love to do that. We love to discover somebody and find something that they've created that we connect with. But then the next step usually is we start to tear them back down. And I was so nervous about it getting too popular that I would hit the tear down stage. And I'm not quite mentally ready for that. My skin has gotten much thicker over the years, so I got a mean Christmas card from a reader this year. And I laughed and hung it up on my wall with all the other Christmas cards. But I don't think I'm quite ready to face an active, cancel Lucy Twingo campaign yet.
But Erica, you've had so much success. I don't know why we do this to anyone who's mega successful. There's people who like to show off by saying, I don't like this and it's rubbish or whatever. Both of you have had that to an extent, but the bigger you are, that's a negative side of things, right? But I don't know if that doesn't happen at the beginning, right?
Oh, it happened in the Twilight fan fiction.
Oh, did it already?
It really prepares you. And if you are writing fan fiction and people are doing that, just say, thank you for adding to my review count.
Yes.
And that usually stops them, okay?
Yeah. And so when, with 50 Shades, just tell us about the publishing process, first of all, with that. You self-published?
Well, this is a misnomer. No, there was an Australian outfit that hosted a fan fiction site, and they decided to move into original publishing. And I went to them and said, do you want to publish 50 Shades? And they said immediately yes. And I got a contract back, and it was written on 3 pages, and I knew these people didn't know what they were doing. And because working in television, I deal with contracts and copyright and all of that sort of thing. So I just said, no, I'll see if I can publish this otherwise. And I sent it out to a couple of people. They said, this is very racy. I don't think we'll be able to do this. So I went back to them. I said, I'll write the contract, and you can have it. So this small Australian press published it first.
And you wrote the contract for them?
And I wrote the contract for them.
Let's try that with my next house move or something, yeah.
So yeah. And then it went, viral, which was extraordinary because I wasn't expecting that. I got this pen name. I had my kids were at school, and I just thought, oh God. So yeah, it was an interesting time, and then I got the calls from Hollywood. I thought someone's pulling my leg. But actually, I got the first email from WME, which I later found out was from Mark Wahlberg.
Oh.
So yeah, anyway, so my husband is a screenwriter, and he has an agent, and she's a book-to-film agent. And she said, well, I told her about this. She said, well, send me the manuscript. And then she said, we're going to get you a proper publisher first, and then that's exactly
And because
what
you'd
happened.
written the contract.
Because, well...
You found a loophole in it.
Yes. Well,
Yeah.
I could talk to you in detail about that, but I won't.
Yeah.
It's quite boring.
So-
But yeah, so after that, we went out, and what was Random House picked it up.
And you have suddenly a business to look after that's turning over a lot of money,
Yes.
which must happen quite quickly to you. So there must have been some growing pains at that point, or?
I think the VAT guys were interested.
I bet they were. Well, it's a book, right? So.
Yeah, so no, I'm very lucky. I have some good people around me. So that was helpful.
Did it affect you personally? I'm going to ask that. Did you feel that you have changed as a result of being super successful? I mean, you go to reader events, both of you now. I've seen you mobbed on TikTok. Lucy?
Well, I'm a much bigger asshole now. I'm just kidding. I'm the same level. I'm just kidding.
You're the same level of arsehole.
Yes, I'm the same level of asshole that I always was. I think the wonderful thing about my experience is it gave me kind of a confidence that it's much harder to shake. I did this, I wrote that book, I put it out there, and it wasn't just things we never got over. Throughout my career, I have had multiple books that just, whatever the reasoning, timing, luck, whatever, content, it took me to the next level. And so every time something like that happens, it just gives me a sense of peace and confidence that I did it, And so I really, at this point, I don't feel like I have to do it again. I don't have to prove anything to anybody outside. I don't feel like I have to prove to myself that I can keep doing it. I think with this series especially, it really gave me some breathing room to start thinking about what's important. So I slowed down. I mean, I know we've talked about this a lot over the years, and I had always been, I'm going to slow down, I'm going to get a hobby, I'm going to do something, and then I never would. And I really actually have started finding hobbies that I'm terrible at. I'm spending more time with my family. It's like wonderful things have come from this, and
That sounds very positive. And Erica, having huge success helps you surely deal with some of the negative side of it, like the criticism, because you can just dry your eyes with the money type thing and just say, look, I'm sorry you don't like my book, but
Actually,
but do you believe it?
Here's a royalty check.
actually, it's people who, people who come to me and say, I was in the NICU with my child, and all of the nurses gave us, everyone there, 50 Shades of Grey, and we all just lost ourselves in your book. And that's what sustains you. People who tell you stories like that. You saved my life. You saved my marriage.
That's because your stories that you created
absolutely
build other people's stories.
Absolutely. And it's yeah. It's also very nice to go on holiday to nice places as well.
Yeah. I do want to ask you about the sex, because I'm always comfortable raising this subject.
I can tell. I can tell.
So, I mean, it is a BDSM, described as a BDSM book, and obviously it plays...
I don't describe it as a BDSM
No,
book.
it is described... What do you describe it as, then? Just
An
normal sex?
erotic romance. That's what I
Erotic romance.
Yes.
But it has a darker exploration of the darker side of sex as well. Do you think that's something that trad publishing just thought was too much for them, or has indie, your kind of indie vibe, your book,
Yes,
I think
so.
has created opportunity for it, or are you just servicing readers that would have read that stuff anyway, just never got it before?
I wrote the book for myself, so that's it. That's all. This is the only person I have to, be accountable to. And if other people love it, great. If other people hate it, that's fine too. But that's it. That's.
It's not necessarily my only question about sex, but that is the one for now.
That was an easy one.
That was easy.
That was an easy one about sex. I'm going to ask you how many different ways you can describe. Because I do know there is an issue with spicy romance writers. There's
How many you can describe what exactly?
Well, stuff.
What stuff?
You did once use the expression, my scene includes some butt stuff in a post in our WhatsApp group, and butt stuff has remained a bit of a phrase. But
There's a small author group that we chat every day in WhatsApp, and it's 2 romance novelists, me and Cecilia Mecca, and the rest are men who do not write romance. So whenever Sissy and I start talking about writing romance, we hold no bars.
No.
we pull no punches. So yeah, we were discussing about amplifying a sex, like the level of sex in her new series, and we were debating choking and butt stuff.
That's the sort of thing I was referring to, choking and butt stuff. And
we mainly do it just because we can picture James when he's reading these.
it's like describing the escape velocity of an Apollo capsule to me. What does your writing life? What does your writing life look like now, Erica? What are your sort of writing ambitions? Can you have an ambition after having such huge hits?
I do have lots of ideas, and I would like to get them out there. But I'm 6 chapters into something else, and I stopped because I'm trying to make a movie right now. So that's what I'm doing.
Can you talk about that, or is
No.
that secret? Lips are sealed. Lucy, what's your writing life like? You've talked about slowing down a bit, and I think you have a bit.
Yeah.
Not a huge amount.
And
but
like when I said slowing down, I meant, I want to have more free time, but instead it mostly seems like it's taking me longer to write books. So not exactly what I meant, but I'm spending more time doing other things, and that way the time that I do spend on writing is kind of more quality to me, I think. It's less, except when you get 2 weeks from deadline, then that's all you're doing at all. No showering, no sleeping. But for the most part, I'm trying to have a life while I write a book, and that's very new to me.
But you have to manage things like tours, because I've bumped into you in London when you've been doing publisher events and stuff, and that used to happen, but now you're touring Europe.
I was actually feeling kind of down on myself last year, like, why is it taking me so long to write these books? Why am I struggling? And when I added it up, I was on the road 7 weeks last year for just book tours. And that was the first time that had ever happened. So of course it's going to take me longer to write some books. But the perspective allowed me to give myself some grace, because really I was sitting at home thinking, why am I such a lazy slob? Why aren't I writing words?
But you know, in the traditional publishers and Hatchet where we met,
Yes.
the fellow authors you've got probably write a third, if they're lucky, of the books you write.
You know, everybody writes at a different speed. They write their own books, but I'm also super nosy, so I'm constantly being like, well, she just turned in her 5th book this year. Well, how'd she do that?
There's people writing a book a month in this room, isn't there? So, yeah. Let's talk about craft. Let's talk about the writing process, which we all love to talk about. And I'll start with you, Erica. So your book sort of evolved, I guess, from your fanfiction. It was a good way of doing it, sort of finding your writing voice and feet. But do you plot?
No.
No?
I have no idea what's going to happen.
Really?
In my books, yeah.
You literally start writing so that you're
Pantsed
intrigued.
my way through the entire lot. So, and in fact, when I was writing 50, I had to rewrite something 4 times before she didn't leave him. So yeah.
Follow-up question. just between the two of us,
Okay.
while you're writing, is your editor asking you, can I have a blurb so I can start selling this?
No.
Okay.
I don't let them do anything until I've actually completed the manuscript.
Okay, that's what I started
Yes,
doing too,
yeah,
because they
don't.
were like, I need a blurb. I was like, I
No.
don't know what this book's about.
Yeah, no.
And they're like, but you're 80% done. I
No,
don't know what it's about.
No. Do nothing until it's finished. The manuscript's finished.
What's the revision process look like?
The revision process, I revise as I go. Because I'm a pantster, then I have to, this is happening.
That
I've
makes
got to go and
sense.
fix that.
Okay.
So I revise as I go. And I will finish mid-sentence, and then I go back and reread the entire chapter. I'll make changes, and then I can just carry on as well.
Yeah,
So that's my,
Good trick.
yeah.
And there are writers, I mean, I think Lee Charles says he does the same, and Marie Force does the same. They sit down and write and genuinely have no idea what's going to happen. I find it a bit of an anathema to me because I'm such a plotter. But about you, Lucy?
I plot. I start out plotting for sure, because it takes me a really long time to figure out what that book's about. So I will start with an outline, and then I'll start writing, and then I'll realize the outline is missing a whole bunch of really important pieces. So then I start to incorporate those pieces into some giant mammoth book, and then my revision is like horrible. I go back to the beginning and I rewrite every single sentence.
Good Lord.
every because until I get to the end, I can't figure out what the theme is, and I don't know if I've nailed the character arcs or what the conflict is. So until I get to the end, that's when I'm like, oh my gosh, that's what it's about. So then I have to go all the way back to the beginning and start layering and fixing. But yeah, I will read every single sentence over again. It is the most inefficient way to do that. I mean, don't do what I do. And that's all before it goes to an editor.
You're always down on yourself after a first draft, I know that.
Yes, and during a first draft.
You're never that person who posts at the end, I finished my first draft, because you're like in a bad place at that point, thinking,
yeah.
I've just created this hot mess.
I should just throw this in a dumpster and set the dumpster on fire. Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly the language you use when you...
After butt stuff.
And yeah. And choking. Don't forget the choking.
No choking.
What about, you mentioned there what the book is about. Do you, either of you, think at the beginning this is going to say something? Erica, your book's hugely influential. Did you set out to say something in that book?
No, not at all. I just did it to entertain myself. That's it.
Escapist.
Escapist. I mean, if it is about anything, it's about. Oh no, that sounds too ridiculous.
You can say it.
Well, I think I'm now looking at the world from a different end of a telescope, and we have a huge problem with inequality in this world, and that influences. It's always influences what I write, So yeah, I would say that.
Lucy, do your books have a message, or?
I think when I start writing, I have an inkling of something that I want to say to myself. These books are always lessons to myself that I think that I can teach myself by making fictional characters act it out and become healthy. The Knock 'em Out series, it started with Things We Never Got Over, And when I was writing it, a dear friend had just passed away, and I thought that I was writing a lighthearted rom-com, and what I was really writing was a book about grief and how do you find the strength to move on from a loss, and how can you be strong enough to love again once you've lost something like that. And so, but again, got to the end, and then I was like, oh, that's what it's about.
Yeah.
And that's what that kind of whole series became. So, on the surface, it is lighthearted. It's very rom-com-y. There's a lot of things to laugh about, but beneath the surface, I really kind of felt that. And that's what I was feeling at the time. So it was something that I needed to work through, and apparently I need to work through things like that in 150,000-word books.
More practical questions. Writing technically, how do you write? Do you use Scrivener? Do you use Word? What do your writing sessions look like? Do you write a particular time of day? So start with you, Erica.
I write on Word, which is very cumbersome, I think, but I'm too old to learn something. I tried Scrivener and it was just not for me. So I write in Word. I had to update my computer because it can't. One of the recent books I wrote was 230,000 words, and once that's been edited, I had to cut it into 4 bits so that my computer didn't fall over. So yeah, that's what I prefer.
A 230,000 word book in Word, it takes a while just to open the document, right, and get to the end where you can start writing.
Well, yeah, there is that, but I've now got a very whizzy iMac.
Yeah.
So,
nice.
So yeah.
Lucy School?
Word.
You write in Word?
No. I was scoffing at Erica. Scoff. I used to write in Word, but my books are long enough that I would just sprain my finger scrolling. Like, I can't scroll. I'm too impatient. So I discovered Scrivener. So I will outline in Scrivener now because it has the handy-dandy little, what's it called? The corkboard. Thank you, Thank you, guys. So then I can start arranging my story visually, and then I need to have my notes on the same page as my word processor. So I love that about Scrivener. So when I sit down, I'm like, okay, what day is it? Whose point of view is it? What am I trying to accomplish with this scene? And then any other details that I need. So all of that stays on the screen with me in these little bubbles here, and then I am writing in the middle. And I love Scrivener because I break it down by chapter. And sometimes I can move my chapters around. I just drag and drop. It's really nice. Or if I get to the editing part and I remember, back in, I don't number my chapters because they're numbers and math. So I name them things. My last work in progress had a chapter called Boats and Hose. So I knew exactly what happens in that chapter. So when I'm editing and something occurs to me, and I was like, ooh, that, I can reinforce that in Boats and Hose. So I love Scrivener for that. It has been a lifesaver for me and my brain.
In terms of page-turning books, the reason readers carry on and adore books, there's the big thing, the story and character arcs and stuff, but do you do a kind of James Patterson thing as well towards the end of a chapter? Think, how do I leave this chapter in every chapter?
Oh, definitely. I want people to turn the page, and I'll leave it on a cliffhanger.
You use a device.
Always, yes. Yeah. I love it.
I mean, James Patterson's so blatant now when you read his books. Everything's normal till the last sentence said, but then he opened the door and saw something he could not believe. And I thought, all right, I'll turn the bloody page, James. It's not even James, though, is it? Someone else. We'll have him. He's a guest next year. Yeah. How about you? Do you think that sort of micro level?
I do. I mean, I don't do it for every single chapter, but if the scene has been kind of info heavy or something, I love throwing in some kind of chaos at the end because I want me as a writer, I want to know what happens next. So hopefully the readers will feel the same way. But I love a little cliffy.
I've got a question here about credibility of events in story, and I don't know if this is a good question or not, but it's something I've been thinking a lot about recently, because I think I probably overthink this when I write a book, in that I watch crime fiction, and you think, they always have this character who you think has done it, and they're the red herring, and they eventually say, yes, I spoke to this girl, but only because X. And then you look back after and you think, why didn't he just say to the bloody police who thought he was murdering somebody? And it didn't make any sense when you thought about it afterwards. So I worked really hard to try and make sure everything's credible, and I think that's a complete mistake because the best writers in the world don't care about that stuff. They write an entertaining chapter. Is this something you think about, or is it just me now?
No, I totally agree. I overthink it as well, especially with my books that include suspense. It's really easy to write romance for me, but the suspense bits, I'm like, I don't know, is this realistic? Like, is this murder funny enough? Is this guy? Is it way too obvious that this guy is the killer? So I overthink it when it comes to like the bigger plots, and then I'll go and read another thriller, and I'll be like, well, that was silly, but I totally enjoyed it, or well, I wouldn't have done it that way, but I think you're overthinking it.
Yeah.
Yeah, for the most part, yeah.
Yeah, I think you can get away with a lot more than you think. That's my hunch about this, having read other people and think, well, I worry too much about this.
We're harder on ourselves, and I think that's a good thing.
Yeah. So it's not silly. You got anything to say, Eric, on
nothing.
that? No, nothing to say on that. Good. You were nodding along, so that's good. Genre tropes, so kind of invented a few genre tropes, and billionaire romance is huge now. Was it around before 50 Shades?
I'm sure it was, yes.
Pretty small, but it's now a big thing. And billionaire writers in here, I'm sure. Dark romance is huge. I mean, it's dark fantasy romance has been huge. People like Zodiac Academy and stuff. I think all of that is post 50 Shades, and it feels to me like that was something you started. So when you write books now, when you think about writing now, are you thinking about tropes and inserting them into the book, or you just, again, I get the feeling you just write the book that you want to write?
Yes, absolutely.
Even though you invent genres.
Well, I don't think so. These things have been around for a long, long time. No, I just write the story I want to write.
How about you, Lucy? Do you think at the beginning, because romance is very tropey, isn't it? You've got to get...
I made a list.
Oh.
I made a list.
Produced from your bra.
Yes. So, okay, I don't know how it works for other genres, but obviously romance has very specific genres. But did you know that we also have micro tropes? Yes.
Tropes within tropes?
Yes. So they've become they're smaller pieces of the story, but they've become tropes because we use them so often because they're awesome. So only one bed. I love that. The caretaker. So whether the person is sick or drunk, their love interest is taking care of them. Inconvenient boner.
It happens, people.
It does. It does.
So also my wrestler name.
You win a lot. I won't touch you unless you ask. Consoling after a bad dream. Dressing for revenge. I like that. Special nicknames. That kind of stuff. So, I think as romance continues to grow, we all think about tropes. Who doesn't love a grumpy sunshine? But I spend more time, I think, thinking about the micro tropes that are more exciting.
I actually don't think about tropes. I don't. Maybe I should.
I think you're doing okay.
Yeah.
I wouldn't change a thing.
Whatever you're doing is working,
Okay,
so
okay.
don't. Yeah. But I've got a question about sex again.
Okay.
Let me confer with my colleague.
Yeah. In contemporary fiction, you write spicy romance, and there's an expectation of sex scenes in there, but you've also got tension, slow burn, interesting, intricate relationship building. How do you have your characters have sex because you've got to deliver the sex scene at some point quite early on and not spoil the story?
No. I'm a slow burn girl. I'm a slow burn.
But in Twingo, I think they had sex quite early.
No, it was after 50%.
Was it?
Yeah.
Oh, I must have enjoyed the book more than I... Felt like a...
No, it was, well,
Well, for me, it's fast. It should be a couple of years, dating, courting.
That's because you're an inconvenient
this is
boner.
coming from
I did think they do find that off-putting, to be honest. Yeah. Why do you think I've got this? Okay.
You win. Surrender.
Was Was that that is a point though, isn't it? You have to
forgot-
deliver.
I don't
You
remember
can't
what
remember
we were
question.
talking about.
You have to deliver sex scenes at the same
Yes,
time.
sex
It's a
scenes.
bit like action and flying scenes from my book. You've got to kind of deliver them.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Well, okay, just like action scenes, sex scenes have to move the story forward.
Okay.
So they're not just stuck in there for inconvenient boners' sake. They exist to propel the characters forward or backward in some way.
Okay. Yeah,
So it's, yeah.
that is the same as action. Okay, we want to talk about tips for writers then. So 2 people have had huge success. Do you have anything specifically, not specifically, but particularly to do with the writing and storycraft that you would say this is something that's worth thinking about?
I would say as soon as you have an idea, write it down. I've got 3 or 4 books in my head, and I have a title for each. And if I have an idea for them, I will send myself an email there and then, because otherwise I forget it. And just the worst time is when you're falling asleep, because then your creative brain comes forward, and you go, ooh, and then I have to wake up and then write the email, because otherwise it's gone. Because I always think, oh, I'll remember that in the morning, and I don't. And it's very annoying. So yeah, that would be my top tip.
I like that. It's a good one.
Score?
Okay, so if you are writing, I would suggest that you kind of experiment with your writing process. I think in the beginning it's really easy to be distracted by how everybody else writes, and that can be good to a point. It can introduce you to new theories and possibly new ways of approaching the page that you wouldn't have thought of. Me personally, I had to give up the idea that I was going to sit down and be motivated and inspired every day. So when I sit down to write, it's with noise-canceling headphones, very loud music.
Yep, me
I
too.
set a visual timer for 25 minutes, and I will do nothing. I'm not allowed to do anything but write for 25 minutes at a time. And if it's going well, then I'll keep going until I need a pee break or something. Or a snack break.
You could sit on a bucket.
Sit on a bucket. Everybody sit on a bucket. Yeah. Let's try that.
Top tip from me.
But yeah, I think experimenting with how you get the words on the page can really help you find yourself as a writer, and it can make it easier in the long run.
I would second that. I listen to music. I listen to the same song over and over and over again. And I used to have it blaring through the house until my husband screamed at me, said, please change the record. And now I do it with noise-cancelling headphones as well. And some of that music makes it into the manuscript. Sometimes it doesn't.
Was there a particular song that got you through 50 Shades drafting?
Stay With Me Till Dawn by Judy Zook.
Nice. We've got a couple of minutes. You happy to take a couple of questions?
No.
Sure.
Would anybody like to ask E.L. James or Lucy Score a question?
A nice question.
Nice questions, please.
When you're in the thick of the writing process, how do you take care of your health?
I don't. My blood pressure just reached 110 while I'm sitting here. My watch is worried about me.
I'll take this one, Erica. Well, first of all, I stay hydrated, and I continue to work out every week. I have a trainer who comes to my house 3 times a week, because if it was up to me, I wouldn't do it. I also got one of the walking pads, so I have a desk that I can raise up. So I will walk very, very, very slowly, like very slowly, so I don't fall off. So I keep moving, I stay hydrated, and I take regular food breaks. But if you do get sick while you're writing, it's better to just rest, I think.
Thank you both, that was really inspirational. I was wondering if there was anything you wish you had learned more quickly in your writing career.
All of it.
Yes, ditto that.
I think I wish that I would have learned to focus more on myself and less on what everybody else was doing, because I wasted a lot of energy trying to catch up or keep up with other people, and that's just not my pace.
There's a bit of a theme from both of you here, writing for yourself being no secret that was the key to success for you.
I think so.
And it's such a good bit of advice for anybody.
Write the story you want to write.
Yeah.
Hello, Erica and Lucy. Thank you. You gave amazing talks. I'm also an erotica writer, erotic romance, and this is my book, and I was quite influenced by you. I also write with a friend. He's a male erotica writer, and he was saying that it's mainly women who are erotica writers, and he wanted to know how he can also reach, more readers. It seems like it's a very female-centric author genre. Yes, exactly.
Write a very compelling story, maybe? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's more important that he's writing for women rather than he's a male author, I mean, I think him being upfront about writing...
E.L. James is a neutral name as well. A lot of people at the beginning would not have necessarily known. They might have assumed you're a woman.
I think if you read the book, you think it's written from a woman's point of view. It's actually, tell him to nail the female gaze, and that might help. I don't know.
Thank you.
Okay, I've got a final question. You're both famous now, and you get asked for autographs. What's the most unusual thing you've autographed? If it's an inconvenient boner, I'm going to be...
I mean, it was more convenient.
I had I've done a few boobs and someone's very hairy chest, which was interesting. Lots of handcuffs, sex toys.
And we should say you sell sex toys.
Yes.
Do you do like an autograph
I don't.
edition? I'm just thinking spitballing here about some ideas.
No, Love Honey came to see me a long time, 2012, and we've done a whole string of sex toys, which has been great fun. Can I just say so?
No boob signing, Lucy? Not yet?
I always say I'll sign anything but bathing suit areas.
Okay.
Because, it's always in public, and I don't want it to be... I think I've signed a child. I think I signed someone's child. I don't know if they asked me to, but I signed.
Just in the street. We're out of time. Thank you very much indeed, Erica and Lucy. Fabulous guests.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Thank you.